Hello, everyone. Welcome to International Coaching Week 2024. It's a pleasure to be with you. And I know that we've had an event every day, and I think we're going to carry on this roll until Monday. So if you haven't seen the other events coming up, please go to our website, have a look, and join us for the rest of the week. So what are we talking about tonight? So first of all, I just want to go and remind everybody what's the objective of tonight. Why did you sign up? So the subject matter is, how do you bring more of your strengths to work? So let me ask, by getting to know you a little bit better, how many of you are here because you are coaches and you want to bring your strengths as coaches into your work more? How many of you, by a show of hands? How many of you are coaches? So you're running a coaching practice and you want to understand where your strengths are in that role and bring more of it to your work. So I'm seeing about 6 to 8 hands go up. So we're about 30 of us here. So that's below 10%. So okay, so let me ask. Thank you for participating. Let me ask, how many of you are professionals? So you're working in an organization, and you're here to understand what your strengths are and bring that to work, bring more of that to work. So you could be a coach and a professional. So you could be doing both. I'd love to see how many of you are actually in an organization. So you're employed in an organization and you want to understand what your strengths are, more of your strengths, and bring that to work. So there's more of you. There's something like there's 10 to 12 hands gone up. So 10% or more of you are in that category. Do we have any? Thank you for participating. Do we have anybody in this group that is managing a team? They have a team that they are managing. So direct team that works for them. Okay, so there's a couple of you that put your hand up. So okay, just give you a little bit of time. This 4. Okay, Rowena, Nathalie, Adisha, and Kate. Okay, great. All right, so we're gonna dive in today into 6 steps. So I have never presented this in public before. So it's the first time I'm doing this, and this is something that I've been working on over the last couple of decades. So it's a process that's dear to my heart, and I endeavor to bring all of that into my own team. So this is a process. It takes time and effort. So I'm going to run through these 6 steps tonight, and I'm going to ask for you to participate in parts of this presentation. So please stay alert on that on the audio, so we can hear your voice and so we can hear you participate. So here are the 6 steps. So I just want to go run through these very quickly first, and we're gonna touch on each one of those tonight. So we've only got about an hour, so this is not going to be an in-depth run of each, but I believe this will bring some insights, and I will share some of those insights together as we go through. So the first thing we're going to look at is, let's look at some myths, and let's bust them. Let's go and look at what is the truth, and let's get our mind geared on what actually is the truth, as opposed to what we've been conditioned to believe. The second thing is, how do you get to know more of you? So how do you become more clear about what are your characteristics, talents, strengths that you have? The third step is how do you then get into strength? How do you take your characteristics and what you have and make it work for you and others? So how do you maximize your strengths? The next step is we all have weaknesses and we all get into weaknesses. So let's understand what weaknesses are, and then let's just stop that. Let's go towards stopping us being in weakness at work. Fifth step is how do we speak up? How do we communicate? How do we break some of the inner conversations and get into action of communicating effectively so things change at work for us so that it benefits us and the team and the organization? And then finally, how do you build strong habits so that you can sustain this model? So let's dive in. I'm gonna ask you some questions, and I want to see if you can participate with me along this. So let's go and bust some myths together. So let's first of all have a look at a definition of what a personality trait is. So when we talk about our personality, if you've looked it up or you know it already, I just want to highlight a couple of important things. Our personality traits is, in essence, how we're thinking, how we feel, how we behave innately. So it's kind of it's part of who we are. It's our characteristic. It's a pattern of our thinking, feeling, and behaviors. And these traits remain with us. So once they're built in our wiring, in our neuro system, it stays with us, and they're stable and they're consistent. So let me ask you one of the first questions. How many of you believe that as you grow, as you develop, your personality changes? How many of you are currently believing that? So as you grow, your personality changes. Okay, so I'm noticing quite a number of hands have gone up. Maybe 20-25% of you believe that. So this is the first myth I'd like to break with you. I'd like to break that myth. I believe this is a myth because, as the definition goes, our personality traits are stable and consistent. Our personality traits are consistent and stable. So as we grow, it develops more and more, and we become more and more of who we really are. So let me kind of open this up a little bit. So Gallup have done a lot of research on this, and they have an assessment called the Strength Finder assessment. Some of you, I know, have done it. So that science and that research is based on that very, very psychological fact that our brain is wired at a very young age due to nurture and nature. So our DNA and the way we've been brought up and the environment we've been living, the wiring of our brain develops fairly early on. So by the time we are in our teenage years, our brain has developed significantly. By the time we're in the age of 18 to 21, it's pretty fixed. So when Gallup have brought this into an actual assessment, so when I've done that assessment and I go and repeat it after a number of years, what I find is that my dominant themes, talents, personality traits don't change much. And I would expect that it would not change much. Can I develop them? Absolutely. Can I make them stronger? Absolutely. But the personality traits, as I grow, becomes more and more of who I am. So that's the first myth. Why is this important? It's important because if you look at that truth, then if you invest in what it is that you have, the characteristics that you have, and if you invest in them, that's where your potential return on energy and finance occurs over time. That's how you get to excellence. So let's go to the second myth. So let me share this this slide. How many of you, when you read this, in terms of your as you're growing, as you're developing, you've either been conditioned to believe this, or you believe it full on, that you should maintain your strength and work on your weaknesses? How many of you believe that? By a show of hands, how many of you believe that? Nobody believes that. That's absolutely brilliant, because that's a myth. So what is it that we are encouraging each person at work to start thinking? To start thinking of where are they strong, what is the areas of strength, and focus on that strength, and if a weakness comes up, to manage it. So you, by that definition, you will grow most in the area of your strength. You will grow most in your area of strength, where your characteristics are, where your traits are, where those consistent and stable characteristics lie. Those are your talents. So if we know those talents and we consistently develop them, that means focus on those in the work we do, then we will grow faster and we will move towards excellence in whatever activities we're doing, and therefore get more rewards for ourselves, the team, and the organization. That doesn't mean you ignore weaknesses. It means we have to manage them when they come up, and we'll go through what the definition of weakness is in a while. So let me ask you the third area. So how many of you are operating with this sentence right now at work? So you believe a good team member, you do whatever it takes to help the team. How many of you believe that that's what a good team member is? Okay, this is interesting. So none of you believe that's the case. If that's the group we're in, you're amazing from a perspective of having busted some of the myths that exist in the workplace today. Because the reality is, what the truth is, this is what we must do in order for us to perform more and deliver more for ourselves and our teams. So a good team member deliberately, so you volunteer in the areas of your strength most of the time. So you deliberately volunteer your strengths. Now you can only do that once you know what those strengths are, right? So if you don't know what your strengths are, it's going to be pretty difficult to go and volunteer them. So let's go to the next step. And in this next step, I want to just leave you with what is the ultimate purpose of doing a strength journey. Why should we be developing our strengths? So this is some statistics that I think some of you have heard, some of you may not have heard. So when we go into organizations, or if you look at the research that's done, if you go and ask team members, if you look at the high performing team members and you look at one lever, one question that has the biggest influence on the performance of that individual in the team, that question is, are you doing what you do best most of the time, every day at work? Right now, the statistics show that between 1 to 2 people out of 10, so 10 to 20%, are currently operating in this mode, where they are every day, they're doing what they do best most of the time during that day. The idea of the strength journey and doing more strength at work is, if you're a team leader, you want to bring your team members from anywhere they are towards the 70, 80% mark. So 70, 80% of what they're doing every day should be what it is that they do well. It should be something that they have a potential to do well. So if they're a graduate, if they've just come into the team, for them to do well, they need to develop. But you've seen the potential. The potential is that talent and the characteristics that will best match that job, that activity. And as a team leader, you want to help them develop fast so that they will do what they do well and best most of the time, every day. So that's the journey. That's the objective of this whole strength-based development. So can I just ask, so far, what is the takeaway so far? Let's either in the chat, if you can write, or if anybody wants to open up the line. What is it that you're taking away? What are you thinking? What's the new insight? What's become more clear? What is it that you know already that is affirming? Hanan?
Hello, everybody. Well, I know now that one should be first aware of their strengths in order to build better performance
Absolutely
and lead
right.
others better as well.
Tell me about that when you say lead others.
Yeah, like we should also allow others to be aware of their strengths. Like if there are tools to do so, now that you're talking about it, I'm aware that in order to have a good team, I should focus more on their strengths, for example. Or if they like now I'm more strength focused instead of weakness focused.
Right, great. Thank you, Hanan. Absolutely right. And in the chat, as you read it, it's kind of affirming what Hanan is just talking about. So focus on strengths, be proactive about them, and manage your weakness. That process that Rowena has just written, that process is 2 out of the 6 that we've just talked about. So this process, 2 of them is exactly that. Focus on your strength and manage your weakness. Namrata has written, we have to demonstrate our strength every day, every moment, most of the time. So the objective is have a look at your day. Have a look at your current day and every day and just see where you're at. How would you rate it out of 10? Are you one of the 10, 20% that are operating every day, most of the day, you're doing what you do best? Or are you outside that spectrum and you want to now, with that awareness, do certain actions to come back where you're more strong? Peggy's written, working within your strength is going to get better results. To go towards, absolutely right, Peggy, to go towards excellence is to stay within your strengths. And there's plenty of data that demonstrates return on energy and investment when we do that. So thank you for participating. So let's go to the next section then. So we've talked about breaking some myths. Let's talk about self-awareness. So what are these characteristics? So you know yourself best. Everyone that's attending today, you know yourself best. Some of you that are attending have done the Gallup Strength Finder assessment with ICE when you come to the strength workshop that we do. If you haven't done, come to the strength workshop on the 30th of May. You will get the code, you will do the assessment, you'll get the report, you will do some exercises, come to the workshop, and then start to work on yourself in terms of what are your significant talents? What are the significant characteristics that you have? And then you will have a model, a 3-step model, where you can go and develop that, which is part of this journey that we're going through today. So let's go on the self-awareness. Let's just see, can you raise your hand in this group? How many of you write down a list of things to do? You always have this habit, this behavior where you write down lists every day. So this is a characteristic. It's a behavior. It's a behavior that you have. Remember, we said the personality trait or talents are your innate way of thinking, behaving, and feeling. So this is a behavior. Now, there's something that drives that behavior. Every characteristic we have, it has needs. So those of you who've put your hands up, any of you want to volunteer about what is it that you need when you, so what's behind the fact that you always write a list? What are you after? What do you need when you're doing that? Anyone wants to share? Please open your line and just tell us what you think. Anyone?
To cross out the list and accomplish them.
There you go. Awesome. So that is exactly right, Rowena. So there's a need. So I write lists because I want to complete them and then go and tick the box. Because that ticking of the box is what will satisfy me. And what is really satisfying, it's satisfying the characteristic. It's satisfying your characteristic, the need of that characteristic. Now, that's not the only characteristics that we have, right? So those of you who have your hands up, thank you, by the way, for participating. So it's not the only characteristic that we have. We have multiple characteristics and they interact with one another. That's how our neurology works. So the dominant themes that we have, the dominant characteristics that we have, depending on what they are, there is a combination effect, which makes you pretty damn unique. And that's the beauty of this, because we want to understand what is unique about us, what's different about us, that we can go and show some of that power in what we do. So the other example is how many of you, when you go to a party, you always seek a familiar face? When you go to a big party, how many of you seek a familiar face? That's where your energy goes. So this characteristic, what is the need of this characteristic? Anyone? What's the need of this characteristic?
Maybe to feel connected or belonging.
They want to feel connected, they want to belong, and there is a level of safety where they are going to individuals they trust. And that there's a need behind that. Now, there is an alternative character, and I want to ask, I don't have a slide for it, but let me ask the question. How many of you, by a show of hands, I'm taking the hands down so to hear you say, how many of you here always, when you're in a, let's say you're waiting for a lift, or you're inside a lift, or you're in a plane next to someone, you strike a conversation. You wanna speak to those people who are around you. How many of you have this this characteristic, this behavior? You want to strike a conversation with people that you don't know. Say hello and break the ice. So some of you I see are putting your hand up. You've put your hand up before in some of the other characteristics. So it's not you're not just one characteristic. You have these things that are driving your energy. That's where your energy is going. That's what talents are. They drive. It's an inner energy. It's an inner motor that motivates you to go and do something. So what do you need? So anyone volunteers, the people that have put their hands up, what do you need when you're doing that? When you're going to breaking a conversation with someone new, what is it that you need?
Probably a healthy relationship.
Did you say a healthy relationship, Priya?
Yeah.
So it's definitely around relationship. It's about social breadth. There's a need to have a social breadth. You need to have a lot of people that you know. So networkers, those people who love networking, right? They have this characteristic. They love it because they have this characteristic, and they need to go out there and meet new people, and they're great at it. When they get developed, they become excellent at it. So they have the talent, but if they go and develop it, they become excellent. Excellent meaning that they use that talent in order to produce an outcome that is positive for them and for other people. So there are other characteristics. So I was just going through this in order to for all of us to see that the more aware we are of the range of dominant characteristics that we have and how they combine together, so you get to know you. Because once you get to know you, then you can start building strength, because strength is driven by talent. You naturally go towards someone to break a new conversation. That is driven by your talent. How you do it and whether you bring good results, good feeling, it's whether you've been taught how to strike a conversation and you've developed the way you're communicating. So you make a positive impact. But your energy is there. You can't help yourself. You want to go and break the ice. So what we're talking about today is initially find out what the characteristics are and then see how we can develop them so that they become strong in what you do. Now, some of you had your hands up in terms of going and breaking the ice with new people. Now, in your organization right now, in your role, are you doing that? Are you creating? Is your role designed so you're doing that? I know someone who have that characteristic, and they are currently sitting behind a computer, getting very frustrated, right? Because they're doing certain things that doesn't give them enough time to go and meet new people. Now, there's nothing wrong with being behind a computer. You can still strike conversations with new people behind a computer. But does that activity involve that person meeting new people, breaking the ice, and enhancing their network, breadth of social? If that's happening, they feel good. Now, it's in service of what they're doing at work. So now we're talking about work, using your talent at work. So that's where we're heading. So these characteristics, to understand them, to understand yourself more, come to the workshop, do the assessment, get to know what these are and how they combine together. So when you do this survey, this assessment, you will get your top 5 themes, and each theme is a collection of talents, a collection of your characteristics. And they're in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've all heard the statement, you're unique, or you're 1 in a million, right? But actually, you are 1 in many billion. Right? You're unique because the neurology of your brain is wired with a number of characteristics that are unique to you, that are dominant in you, and that forms the way you think, feel, and behave, hence your characteristic. So the idea is, what are the tools to help you discover that faster? And then how can you apply that directly to what you do at work so you can go towards excellence? That's the idea of this strength journey. So just to finish off this bit, so you will learn those themes, those talents, characteristics, in which categories or domains of potential do they sit. So in a coaching language, we talk about working with clients so that they discover their potential and they maximize their potential. Well, that means finding out your characteristics, that's you, and then go and maximize those in relation to the role that you do. And by knowing that, knowing what category and what domain they sit in and how they combine with another, that's where you're going to get self-awareness to go and make better decisions. So would you like to share, please, what it is that you are taking away from this section in the chat, or if you want to open up the line, what is it that you're taking away? Hanan?
Well, I'll start first by what I liked most is that we are unique because we have the neurology that puts together our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings, and this makes our own personality traits. And we should be also aware of our needs, because if we have a certain need or we behave in this way, then there is an underlying need behind it. And this can be also related to our strength at work if we're seeking something.
That's absolutely awesome. Okay, so that's great, and it kind of captures what we just talked about beautifully. I'm just wondering if there's anything in the chat that's in addition to that. I'm not seeing anything else. So thank you, Hanan, for summarizing that takeaway. That's awesome. So let's go to the third step. So what is that third step? The third step, if you remember, was all about how do we maximize strengths? So the topic tonight was take more of your strength to work, right? That was the topic. And this section is talking about maximizing that. So in order to maximize strength, we better find out what is strength. What's the definition of strength? So I want to share with you the definition of strength in words. Hear it from me, and then I'll show you a slide. Couple of slides. So think about this. Go to your current role right now, whatever it is that you do at work. Just take your mind to what it is that you do at work. And then just think about whatever role that you're playing at work. Think about one activity or one task that you seem to do at work on a regular basis, frequently. You might not do it every day. You might not do it most of the day, but it's frequent. You might do it every other day or once a week. Just one task, one activity that you do as part of your role. And you do that regularly. So can you just put in the chat what it is that you guys are thinking? What is that one activity or task that you're thinking right now? So I can just get a feel for what is it that you do at work as part of your role. So Priya has put listening. So there must so Priya, can you share what is your role so that we can get a context in terms of this particular activity?
Sure, Taimur. I'm a coach. I'm a leadership coach.
Great. So as a coach, one of the tasks or activities we do is listen actively, right? So that's great. So when you do that activity, this is the definition of strength. So first you have to think of an activity that you're doing at work, and then you ask yourself this: do you produce positive outcome consistently at work doing that activity? So as a coach, as in the activity or the task of listening to your clients, do you produce positive outcomes consistently?
The answer is yes. Consistently, also, I make an effort.
Great. So this is what you just said. So I produce positive outcome consistently. That means you are sitting in your strength.
Yes.
Right. What you said at the end was, I've got room to grow.
Yes.
Right. So I can develop this. I can make this strength even stronger towards excellence. Right. What is ICF doing? ICF says do ACC, active listening, one competency, and then it says PCC. Again, what you're doing, you're developing active listening at a deeper level. So you're developing that one task or one activity. And then you go to MCC, you develop it even further. It doesn't even stop there, right? You go beyond MCC. You can always expand and become better at the way we listen, right? So positive outcome is about for you and others. So it's not a one-way show here. It's got to be in relation to the context you are. So if you're working with one client, it's how you're listening to that one client. They feel heard. You pick up the nuances in what they're saying. And your questions and your reflections and your observations are demonstrating that amazing hearing and listening. And they feel heard and trust is built. And then they open up. So this is a cycle. It just keeps on going. Right? That's what we do as coaches. So you've just spotted an area where you're at your strength. Right? Now, there are certain characteristics that you have, Priya. Now, I don't know whether you've done the Gallup assessment or anything else that identifies some of the characteristics you do. Once you do it, you will realize that there are some of the core characteristics that's in your wiring that, first of all, it's taking you towards the listening, right? There's an energy towards doing that activity. Because I know people that are not good listeners. They don't want to be good listeners. The energy is not there, right? They don't want to listen. They want to do, they want to tell. That's where their energy is, right? Now, as part of their work, if that's a weakness, meaning that they're getting into trouble, they have to manage that. But some people love listening. I'm one of them. I love listening to people, right? So when I love listening, that's coming from something, right? That's to do with me. Now, if I go and develop it, and that's where ICF comes in, you develop that active listening and that competency. So what are you doing? You have the talents and you're developing them. That's how you become strong. That's how you become, that's where strength becomes visible. The positive outcomes come out of it, right? Now, you could be a negotiator. That could be the activity you're doing. You could be a report writer. You could be an article. You love writing articles. You could be a mentor. It doesn't matter what activity or task you do. You're either sitting in your strength and moving towards becoming stronger and stronger, like Priya. She knows she's got some development, but she's sitting in the strength. She knows she's got development, but she's sitting in the strength, right? Or you're not, or that activity is making you feel not so good. It's one or the other. if it doesn't feel good, you're probably not sitting in your strength. You need to do something different. If it's feeling good, it's very likely you are sitting in your strength. And that's what the definition that I want to share with you. So thank you, Priya, for volunteering. So this is the definition of strength. Do you feel strong? Priya says, yes, I feel strong sitting in a session listening. Is she producing consistent positive outcome for that task? She says she is. She's got room to develop, but she's doing that. So she is in her strength. Now, we talked about strength is also a combination. So it's your talents, it's the energy, it's the characteristics that draws you towards that activity, and it's the way you've developed it. So Priya's gone to a program and learned the knowledge and skills around active listening. And that's how this formula has moved towards strength. Right? That's what it is. So the idea about this maximizing strength is for you, each one of you at work, start listing the activities that you do frequently, regularly, and listen to how you feel. Is that taking you to, is it an energy that's motivating you to do it? Or is it telling you that you don't really want to be doing that? You know, it's your feelings, you know. And then if it's strong, go and develop it. Look for skills, knowledge, and practice to develop it. That's it. That's what you want to do at work. So please share with me, what are you taking away from this section? What is it that you take away? We have Sahabe. I think if I haven't pronounced that incorrectly, I hope. You have your hand up. I don't know whether it's from the past or it's to do with this. Have I pronounced your name correctly? You're on mute.
Sahabe.
Sahabe.
Yeah.
Love it. It's an Iranian name. Now I'm
Yeah.
now I'm with you. Okay, so
Yeah,
Sahabe,
it's Arabic name, but yeah, I'm Iranian.
So tell me what is it that is it a question or you want to share?
No, I want to share, I have to regularly have powerful relationship with my customers and my team as a team leader. I have to bring my strengths about relationship to my job because, every day I have to watch about how can I have more and better communication with others. And I have to make sure that my customers and my team are loyal about my job and about my products. Because of that, I have to be unique about relationship, and I think it's basically and innerly I have this strength, but I have to I have to be in progress about better relationships and extend that. And without it, I can't be in progress and I will lose many of my customers and maybe some of my team's member.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, you're saying this is a process. This is a process where you can develop and progress as long as you stay in this continuous progress. Progress requires awareness. It's a fundamental thing. If ICF's second competency, right, embodies a coaching mindset. One of the items is all about reflection. If you leave time during the day where you're reflecting on what's going on, that reflection gives your brain the space to observe and to be able to make some decisions that otherwise would have passed. And if it's passed, you forget it. So it's a structure. It's a habit that you can create. And if you create that and you keep on being more aware of what's happening, because you go to one level, there's always another level. There's always another level, right? In an environment where it's always changing, right? So we're always in an environment that changes, which requires us to change, which means our self-awareness is the biggest powerhouse we have in order to progress. That's why that embodies a coaching mindset is such an important competency, right? So thank you for that. Priya, you wanted to share something?
I had a question. Is this the right time, or I wait for the end of the session?
Let's wait for the end, because I want to make sure we have time to complete
Sure.
this section. We'll come back. Puya, did you want to share something with the group?
Yeah, just that some people joined late, and I want to make sure everyone's got the link to join the raffle. It's £160 voucher. So put your name in, answer 3 questions, and the link is now.
Oh, you've gone on mute, Puya. I think your hand must have hit the. You're on mute again.
What is going on? I'm just putting the link back in the chat. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so thank you for sharing in the chat. So we now have this alignment of maximizing strength, right? So let's go to the stop weakness area. So what is weakness? Let's define what weakness is. If strength is I'm doing an activity where I feel strong, weakness is I'm doing an activity where I don't feel strong. I feel weak. I don't want to be there. I'm looking at my watch. When is this coaching session finishing? Right. If I am in my weakness, it's either because I don't feel I want to be there doing that activity, or I am doing something that there's a perception from the external environment, your team members, your boss, your friends, your parents, right? If they have a perception of you doing something that is not serving, you're in your weakness. Perceptions are also important. So think about this in this way, right? Your talents, the wiring, the characteristics can also be perceived as weakness, right? This picture I love this picture because it depicts exactly what it is this is all about. What it's saying is, are you putting your talents, that specific characteristic, are you putting it in the right context? Are you using it in the environment that's really needed, or are you doing it on autopilot? You need to be aware of where your characteristic could get you into trouble, because your characteristics aren't good or bad. They're neutral. It's what you do with them that makes them strong or weak. This is really important because the power is with you. It's the most empowering thing I ever learned. I have the power of the results that's being created. Because I'm either using my talents towards a strength and it's productive, it's positive outcome, or I need to learn something. I need to learn how to manage how either the talents I have, how am I using it, or I might be being asked to do something where I don't really have the talents or the characteristics that drives me there. And if I know that because I know how I feel. Right? That's why you have the power. And I want you to own that power. Because if you own the power, you will make better decisions. And you are capable of making better decisions, and you're capable of learning how to manage the situation. So if you can stop the activity If it's in your weakness and you can stop the activity, do it. If you can't stop it, think about maybe partnering. Maybe you're in a team environment and somebody else is really good at that activity, loves it, driven by it. You're not, but you could be doing some of theirs and you could team up. There are strategies around managing weakness. And that's what I'd like you to think about. If you are doing an activity where you feel weak, or you're giving feedback, somebody's giving you feedback that what you're doing is not working, or you observe and you can see in their physiology that what you're doing is not working, you need to start thinking, what's happening here? Is it the talent? No, you might say, oh no, actually I'm energized to do this. I have the character, I'm energized, but how come I'm not getting the results? Well, it's the other side of the equation around development. What needs to be developed so that the talent is doing what you want it to do and giving positive outcomes, right? So that's where stop weakness comes from. So what are you taking away from this section as we wrap up today's presentation? What's your takeaway? Hanan? Oh, you're on mute, Hanan.
You mean the main takeaway from this part?
From the part of stopping weakness, yeah.
Yeah, it is first, we have those characteristics. It doesn't matter. It is not that these characteristics are good or bad, but it is more what we do with those characteristics. When we do something, we have to notice if we're feeling good or if it has a positive impact, or else we have to revise what we're doing. And in case we cannot stop the weakness, we can partner with somebody.
Awesome. That's exactly right. So the power lies with you. The power lies with you. And that's an amazing thing, just to remind yourselves that the power is with you. And you're sitting behind that wheel towards what it is you want to make out of your work environment, or in fact, your personal life. It doesn't really matter. So, okay. So somebody asked in the chat, how do we get onto the strength workshop? I'm going to put the link to the website where you can click and go to the ICE website, and there is an enrollment process there. If you have any questions or issues, just contact us and we will guide you through it. So in order to wrap up today, we have I want to just make sure we address two things. Speak up. So what does speak up means? So speaking up, people who speak up because there's something not happening for them, there's something that needs correction. If they're speaking up, it could be because of their character. So they have the character to speak up, and they're driven. Their energy is to, if there's something not working, they'll speak up, right? There are some people that have that character, that power. Other people have certain things going on in their heads, and there's some fears, there's some conversations about not having the conversation necessary, right? They're stopping themselves having the conversation. Now, if you're speaking up, my question is, how are you speaking up? Because you may have the talent, but the way you're speaking up your boss may not listen. But if you can go and learn how to influence, the coaching conversations are a fantastic way to learn how to communicate effectively. So if you're not on a coaching program yet, or if you are a coaching program and you want to advance, go and invest in this area, because we work with coaches to unblock some of the unempowering conversations we're having in our heads, which also helps us. it's that bit about our perception and perspective. So we're managing that, but also there's some skills and knowledge we can learn about how to have that conversation that's quality. So if you're not on a program, come to a program, come and go through the competencies and get to the communication effectively. So you can then speak up, and speak up in a way where it's good for you, it's good for the team, good for the organization, good for the boss. There are ways you can do that. So invest in what matters, because that's ultimately your time that you're putting at work. And there are strategies around that, which in other webinars, I will go into more depth. But to save time, because I know we're running on the hour, I just want to go to the next section as well, and then have a quick takeaway after Puya's spoken about his section. So building strong habits, we talked about a little bit. So this thing about reflecting and understanding what needs to change, and then going and putting an action plan together. Now, to build a strong habit, I think part of it is go and work with a coach, because if you can identify your innate talents, you can then capture them, own them, and then execute intentionally through coaching. That could be a really powerful way of you structuring. Now, this 3-step item we will cover in the strength workshop. So it's how you do it, that model, you will learn it, you can apply it. But I think there's more to this than that. I think from a perspective of building habits, I would say think about your daily, your weekly, your quarterly, your 6-monthly, and your yearly plan. Think about those 5 elements. What is it that you want to do so that you are moving towards a goal that matters most to you? If you don't have a goal and if you don't have a plan, it's unlikely you're going to get it. So on a daily basis, create what it is that you know about yourself, the self-awareness, the reflection. On a weekly basis, address where you're going to get your strength maximized and stopping your weakness. On a weekly basis, you need to be doing this. Why? Because you want to move towards the 20%, where on every day, most of the day, you are doing what you do best. You do that by focusing on that very goal. And if you do that on a weekly basis, that's your weekly plan. And at work, when you're looking at your quarterly plan, your quarterly plan is to go to your boss and have a feedback session around where your strengths are showing up, having a strength conversation. In 6 months, review your activities. It's likely your activities have changed. So look at the activities and make sure you're still in your strength. And on a yearly basis, do a review on your self-awareness. Again, this cycle just repeats itself. So this is, I know my time is up, and I want to just pass on to Puya. I'll come back on the takeaways and questions. Can I just reaffirm what Puya said? So the strength workshop on the 30th of May, so that if you win the raffle, the raffle prize in essence is a free ticket to the strength workshop, right? So it's £160 for the strength workshop. So put your name, you might win the raffle, and just come as an ICW gift and share this experience with us. Either way, I would love to work with you through the strength workshop. Let me know if you're interested in doing that. Hanan, you wrote something in the chat, and it's a real insightful kind of observation, and I don't want to pass by it. So the boss also needs to know about the strength to be able to give the feedback. So ICE, we have 2 organizations that work side by side. There's the ICE education, which Puya has just described, the education we provide. So the other one is ICE in organizations. So when organizations come to us saying we want our team, the leaders, to develop and enhance their performance. So our methodology in going into organizations is based on the strength-based methodology. That's our package. because I believe that's exactly what organizations need. So whether it's one-on-one coaching, whether it's team coaching, whether it's the managers and team leaders coming in learning some of the coaching skills, we have the strength-based development incorporated in it. Why? Because if they're coming on this program with us, the lever is it's a 20-80 rule, right? 80-20 rule. If you pull that one lever, you're going to get the biggest return on your investment. So that is why I believe what you've written here is our mission in going to the organizations, and the webinars and the seminars that we do is to, in essence, widen the perspective of team leaders, managers, of the opportunity they have for themselves. So first it works for them because they become better leaders. Then the knock-on effect is that you working for them become more engaged, your performance goes up, they win because your performance has gone up, and the organization wins. So that's why the organization wants to invest in that space right now, right? So thank you for that comment. So any questions or takeaways that you'd like to share? I'd love to hear them. So Priya, let's start with you.
Thank you, Taimur. Yeah, and thank you so much for this lovely opportunity. It was a very, very profound session. And I like the fact that, my strength was reiterated while I do acknowledge, and then I'm aware that my strength is listening. The slide that you had, the definition of strength, it's an activity that makes you feel strong. Yes, I definitely feel strong because as I'm listening to my clients and I see that shift of their disempowered state turning into an empowered state, I know that my strength is getting demonstrated and it's making a positive impact. Now, my question is the keywords near perfect performance, right? While I do acknowledge that listening is one of my strengths, core strengths, as a coach, when I listen to my recordings, because I'm also in the process of my MCC, I notice that there are places I have not listened actively. I've seemed to have had some missed opportunities. So those are the places where I actually doubt whether I'm working on the right track. Now, the next slide had a formula said strength is skill plus knowledge. So developing the skill and knowing the knowledge, how do you think I can work on that? Somewhere through the session, I saw that the 3-step process could be the answer to my question, but this was a thought I had at that point in time as, while I acknowledge I have the strength, I also doubt that I might not be going to that near perfect performance. How do we recognize that state of near perfect performance? Yeah.
So the definition of strength and working with your talents is you're moving towards excellence. So when we're moving towards excellence and we're feeling strong in the activity we're doing, so we're using the talents we have, there's an element where you would have gone through in your MCC path is where you get mentors working with you. So one of the things that mentors do is they see things or hear things that you haven't. And they will put the mirror and they will ask you some questions. And most of the value we get out of our coaching development, education, is actually starts with us developing. Right? And once we develop, we then become a better coach because that's how we are transferring that development across to our clients. And this is not a road that ends. So you have mentors that can be that listening ear or observation. You could work with a coach, that 3-step process you just mentioned yourself. Yes. You could listen to your files yourself. That reflection that we talked about, competency number 2, where you're listening to your files, you are no longer in the moment of presence where your mind has come in and stopped you listening for a second. You're now open to listen again. So you have opportunity to listen again and observe yourself and realize that this goes back to you in asking yourself what's happening here. It could be that you might need to work on your presence more.
Mm.
So if you're more present, you will listen more actively. So
Right.
it could be that. So there could be strategies, but there could also be awarenesses that will come up for you that will help you go on that development. And obviously, the near perfect is when you're noticing that, oh my goodness, 9 out of 10, I'm there, right? I've reached it. And then what do? You go for the next level, right?
Yeah.
You go back to 5, and then you start building 6, 7, 8, and then you come back to 9. And that's the process. Yeah, and it's a lovely process because you're sitting with the feeling of feeling good, what you're doing, but also you're seeing development. So progress, for me, a definition of happiness is progress. If you're progressing, you're feeling happy. So I hope that helped, Priya.
Definitely, definitely. It helped big time. Thank you so much. I got that. And I understand. And learning is a continuous process. Learning never ends. So I think the near perfect performance keeps raising the bar every time. Yeah. Thank you, Taimur. Thank you so much. Yeah.
You're welcome. Hanan.
I have a question regarding the first myth, please. It is that our personality traits do not change, but we usually, I'm talking on the level of personal experience. I have been into transformational experiences where I have my thoughts changing, so my feelings as well as my behaviors. So I don't know, I still cannot agree that we do not change our personality traits. However, you mentioned that the dominant traits stay the same. So is it that because of dominant traits are very hardly wired in, so it is very hard to change them, but it is more likely that we change things that we do less frequent?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. The dominant talents or themes that we have is really the wiring whereby there is a much more natural reaction or response, the innateness, the autopilot of the way we're wired, which means that's where, if you're not thinking about it, that's where naturally it will go. If you're thinking about it, of course you can make a decision to change. If you're thinking, then you are stepping in to do something different, right? My question is, when you're stepping in to do something different, does it still feel good? Because if it feels good, you're probably tapping into another characteristics you have that is also hardwired, that it's part of your characteristic, right? But if you're stepping in and you're doing something and you're feeling awkward, you don't feel good, and you don't really want to repeat it again, it's likely you're mitigating something, right? You're managing the situation the best you can. What you don't want to do is to stay in that feeling of weakness.